Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to the October-November Axelar Community Call. My name's Galen, content lead. I'm here with Eli from marketing and someone new to introduce here, Stephen Fluin, who's our new DevRel lead here at Axelar. Hey everybody.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, hey.
So just a quick introduction to the call. This is something we do every month. It's kind of a live presentation of what we've been up to and what you can expect in the coming months. We try to introduce new team members, talk about exciting developments, and of course, open up space for your comments and questions. Those can be posted on the YouTube channel in the chat there, and we will see them and endeavor to answer them. So without further ado, I guess Stephen, Eli, I'm going to say goodbye to you and bring you back in a minute to talk about the Interop Summit. But Stephen, why don't we get into it and let's talk about DevRel at Axelar. So first of all, introduce yourself and tell the people about Stephen Fluin.
Yeah, so my name is Stephen Fluin. I'm relatively new here to Axelar, but I'm really excited to be here. Really excited about this cross-chain interop future that we're building. I've spent a long time of my career really trying to sit halfway between business and technology. And so what I mean by that is I code almost every day, every weekend, but then at the same time, I'm trying to really understand what are people trying to achieve? What do developers actually care about? Like what matters to you, and how do we learn to kind of ignore the rest and make sure that we're building the right sorts of things. And so my definition of successful developer relations is really focused on your success, so developer success as kind of a first priority. And as a close second would be really empathizing and understanding what it's like to be out there building software in the real world with real constraints, real deadlines, real money, those sorts of things, so that we can understand those needs and reflect that across the products we build, the stories we tell, and the education, the tools we give you.
You've been in the blockchain Web3 space for a while. Before this, you were at Chainlink. What is your sense of kind of the state of the developer ecosystem in Web3 broadly? Where are we in terms of developer awareness, adoption, education for developing using smart contracts and decentralized systems and the like?
Sure. It is absolutely early days from basically every metric you can look at, which is that there is not a lot of awareness. I was at a conference of web developers, a few thousand web developers a few months ago, and I was shocked at like all of them had heard of blockchain, all of them had heard of crypto, but even though they were developers, they were writing code every single day. They didn't know that you could write code and deploy it on the blockchain in this kind of smart contract universe that we're building. And so I think there's huge awareness opportunities ahead of us, as well as this opportunity to kind of continue this transformation that we see going on in the world, where like blockchain is this kind of pivotal technology that is really exciting and can kind of create a new type of future for all of us.
Yeah, I think I remember the Stack Overflow survey from Q1 of this year. We were looking at it, and it was the number of developers who said they used Solidity, which is, I think, the most widely used smart contract language, was somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000, right? Or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's higher than that, but
maybe higher than that. Maybe
yeah, it pales in comparison to the 23 plus million developers
exactly
across the globe.
Exactly. And I think that kind of, if we think about our mission at Axelar, it really is like if you're going to achieve hundreds of millions of users, if you're going to develop applications that are capable of attracting users at that scale, then you need to be able to bring in developers and have people building at a much greater scale than we're seeing today.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit, I guess, kind of diving back into what you were saying a minute ago, the impact of blockchain. Like, why should people be excited about developing decentralized applications, protocols, dApp chains, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, I had this conversation with people a lot, and I think the first part of it is really just like a mentality shift, because people have heard of things like NFTs, but they don't really realize that an NFT is really just a program. Like it means and it represents what we want it to mean. And so whether that ends up being things like conference tickets or mortgages or financial instruments, all these sorts of things, is like it's up to you as the developer to figure out what these things mean. And what happens is the blockchain is going to give you privacy and control and consensus and all of this ability to escape the world that's really built on trust and like relying on things always working the way they've always worked. and really just be built on more kind of programmatic systems. I think that's kind of where a lot of the excitement comes in. But I would say I think there's more to be done here, which is like we don't know all of the killer apps that are going to be changing the world yet. And I think that's kind of one of the most exciting things, is trying to help people encourage their curiosity, encourage their innovation to help find all those.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess then what is kind of, do you think, the biggest, what's the sort of the next step in that process in your view, kind of, again, broadly speaking? I think, we have a particular challenge at Axelar because as a cross-chain communication network, there's a kind of a paradigm shift involved there, even among people who already are immersed in Web3, to start thinking about, okay, what kind of application can I build that is chain agnostic, right? That doesn't require the user to be part of one ecosystem or another. I think that's an education challenge in itself, right? But stepping back again, broadly, like, what is where are we in terms of that education process, and what do you think is kind of the next stage or step that we need to take for that goal to bring on additional hundreds of thousands or even millions of developers?
Yeah, I mean, I will say, I think the most important thing to think about right now is that it is hard to become a developer that builds on blockchain today. There are a lot of options, a lot of choice, a lot of churn. There's new tech, there's new innovation every day. There are things like scams and hacks and things like that you have to be aware of. And so it's a hard ecosystem, a hard industry to enter into. And to me, I'm always looking for, how can we simplify? How can we make the story easier, better, smoother, faster? And so to me, that's one of the reasons I'm excited about Axelar, is because if we can achieve this vision of the future where we don't have to worry about the chains that we're on as much, right? Like that's more of an implementation detail. It's like infrastructure level. And I'm really just focusing on the users and how they interact and the data and how that flows. That's kind of the magic moment that I see in the future, is your application being everywhere that your users need to be and want to be, and being able to interact in all the ways that they want to be able to be. That's kind of the magic that I think would actually open one of the doors to bringing people in.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've always thought of the applications of blockchain, like from early days. I've been skeptical. Are these applications really killer apps? Can they really attract large numbers of users? But Sergey's perspective on this that he shared with me early on joining Axelar was like, actually the applications are way far ahead of the infrastructure in terms of, relatively speaking. It's like we're running, I don't know, early 2000s, like Web 2 applications on, 1980s, 1990s infrastructure. I think you can see that in our teaser video, right? With the it's like sending email in the 80s. There is an extent to which I think that's true for both users and for developers, right? We need to improve the tooling, improve the development and execution environments, make sure that that we can welcome that next wave of developers.
Absolutely.
Well, okay, enough spiel. And also, I guess with that in mind, and a good transition here, let me bring back Eli to talk about the Interop Summit, which is an event that we are sponsoring coming up in February in Miami. Eli, take it away.
Yeah, right on. So we're putting on Interop Summit, as Galen just said. It's going to take place February 20th through the 22nd at the Fontainebleau Resort and Hotel in Miami Beach. Good time to be in Miami if you're from a cool weather climate like Steven and I. And we're really focused on making this a conference for builders, right? Per Galen and Steven's conversation just now around kind of what is the future of Web3 going to look like, and how do we enable it to be both a seamless kind of end user experience and developer experience? Well, we're putting together Interop to bring participants from every ecosystem in Web3 together to discuss, what does it mean to go cross-chain? What are the challenges that we have today? What are the innovations that people are working on to make it easier? And so we're going to have, 700 to 1,000 people coming together to debate, discuss, learn from each other. So yeah, we're really excited about it. Our tickets are live and for sale right now. We actually already sold out our super early bird builder pass. We have the early bird pass on sale right now. But I think there's it's going to be a good gathering. So Stephen, I know you've got a lot of experience with developer events and events in Web3. You know, maybe you can kind of talk a little bit about like, why would a developer want to come to this? Who is this kind of for?
Sure. And I mean, I guess one of the things I'll just touch on here is I love the word summit, because there's a lot of conferences out there where it's kind of like dumping information on you, pushing, like it's one way information transfer. But a summit kind of implies a coming together, a collaboration of large groups of people. And so that to me kind of implies kind of a more magical moment where maybe you're not just listening to talks and like being inspired and being motivated, which definitely happens at all these events. But maybe you're also coming together and meeting new people and creating the next big thing, right? Like forming a new startup, creating a team, finding new resources, finding new connections that you might not have had. And so the idea to me of a summit is really that everyone participates in some way, in their own way, and that everyone benefits from that.
100%. I mean, I think, to your point, it's not going to be just a bunch of spiels from vendors, right? There's going to be debate. There's going to be discussion, right? There's going to be educational workshops, right? So I think this can be valuable to both experienced developers who already have already built dApps and are looking to understand how to scale into the future. And then also for novices, right, who are just getting into Web3, trying to understand how do you make your dApp future-proof from the time that you start writing that first line of code. This is a great place to come, learn from others who are already on the path, and then meet folks who are at the same level as you are and kind of can relate with each other and discuss best practices and obstacles to avoid. So again, it's February 20th in Miami Beach, February 20th through the 22nd. We've got a lot of really great programming that is yet to be announced. So please keep kind of tuned in on our different channels. We'll drop those here in the chat in just a moment. But if you want to learn about it today, you can go check out interopsummit.com. We just have it flashed up here on the screen. We've got a Twitter account, Interop Summit, as well as a Telegram channel if you want to, stay up to speed on the latest speakers, on the latest promo codes, and the content and agenda that is forthcoming. So, Galen, maybe we can pull you back in here.
They pull me back in.
Just when he thought he was out.
That's right. That's right. Every time. Yeah, no, that was great. I mean, look, I'm excited about the summit. I think it's about time we got a lot of the people. I mean, we've had so many great conversations with partners who have, compelling visions for what can be built cross-chain. And I think in this space where everybody works remotely, it's, a lot gets done when people get into the same room.
For sure.
We're very much looking forward to seeing that kind of cross-chain future envisioned by people collectively. Question coming in: is it a hackathon? Eli, is it? Well, actually, I don't know. Both of you, Eli, Stephen, is it a hackathon? Have we decided yet? We are planning a connected hackathon. Yes, I don't think we've announced that yet. So great.
Oops. I'm just leaking
that's good.
information here, left and right.
We love to drop alpha here. That's the way. That's what this is about. Like that's why people come.
This is for people who show up at the community call. They get the alpha.
Yeah, that's right. Cool. I don't know, Stephen, you want to talk a little bit about the hackathon? Is it early days? Can we say anything kind of what?
Yeah, it's early days. We don't have all the details finalized, but if I get my way, there will be a fantastic hackathon with like an in-person component where either you're able to build a team or you're able to like present actually at the conference. So we have a lot of cool ideas. We haven't finalized the plans yet, but I think it's going to be very exciting.
Awesome. That's great. I should mention we do have a promo code for anybody attending the call. I'm going to flash it up on the screen here in a minute. It is Axelar Community 11-4. And I think it's capital A, capital C. But there it is right there. So any of you here attending the call, write that one down, keep it in your on your paper wallet. And appreciate the community, want to make sure we're we want to let people in the community, the Axelar community, have been with us for a while. We have this great, active, lively community. People contribute a lot to the project. So we want to make sure that people know we're doing this for them as much as for like the broad outreach and bringing new people into this, interoperability space as well. Cool. All right. Well, Stephen, thanks for joining. Thanks for talking up the Interop Summit. I think, excited to have you here and excited to really, get start, doing a better job serving the growing developer community. We've been sort of muddling our way through. So it's, it's exciting to have you here. Except that you're muted.
Thank you for having me. And I'm really excited about the future.
Awesome. Thanks, Stephen. So Eli, what do we have next?
Yeah, we got some announcement recaps. Mm-hmm. We got a lot go on since through the month of October. So maybe we can kind of talk through some of the high level points and let people know what happened.
Absolutely. So obviously the big one, I think, was the announcement that we're working with Polygon. We've been, early adopter with Polygon. One of the first chain integration announcements that we made was integrating Polygon onto the Axelar network. One of the things that has been developing since that time is Polygon has developed a program of supernets, which are dedicated application chains, DApp chains, if you will, application specific chains. Really designed for the DApp user, the DApp builder who has a really high throughput need in mind. So, some of the partners that they're working with, major brand names, I don't want to rattle them off here, but if those kinds of partners are thinking about doing things in the decentralized application space, in the NFT space, wanting to make sure that they're going to have the type of throughput that they need, the dedicated chain is, the kind of infrastructure that the SuperNet is designed for. Where Axelar comes in is connecting those SuperNets, making sure that they can talk to each other, but also talk to the broader ecosystem of Web3, Web3 blockchains. I think Axelar at this point connects more than 24 chains. And of course we connect Cosmos and EVM and other other consensus mechanisms in the future as well. Looking forward to kind of what we'll be able to catalyze and enable within the very dynamic Polygon ecosystem, and excited to see where this one will go. I think the really major just kind of first point for anybody who's new to this area of DApp chains to understand is that often a DApp chain will have its own gas token to provide security. With without a kind of a cross-chain solution like Axelar, onboarding becomes difficult. You have to ask the new participant to buy the gas token. Maybe you have to send them to a DEX on another chain where the liquidity for that gas token can be found. Either that or you have to build a DEX and build up liquidity on your own DApp chain. So these are significant barriers both for developers and for users. And so when it comes to user onboarding, we see that as a really key component. I think the Polygon team is very much aligned on that. So if you're interested in more on that, I'll post a link in the chat here in a minute. We had an AMA with the Polygon team earlier this week. You can go back and check that one out. There's a blog post on the Polygon blog, polygon.technology/blog. And, I think you can look forward to further and additional content coming out where we try to, help developers build there and, energize the Polygon community.
Absolutely. So, yeah, that's a big one for sure. I mean, from a developer standpoint as well, it only takes a couple of days to get, connected to, for new supernets to get connected, and get kind of that liquidity routing and, easier end user experience added to whatever they're building. So it's a pretty quick onboarding from a dev experience as well.
Cool. Getting some good questions in the chat here. I'm just answering them in the chat as we go along. Wondering kind of how can we sort of answer actually specific application building problems that they're having. And yeah, the best place for that is our Discord, discord.gg/Axelar. Easy to remember. I'll put it up on the screen here. And if you go there and claim the developer role, you can then enter the developers channel. We have a number of roles. We have satellite users roles, validators, etc. So if you haven't been active in the Discord community, it's lit. Go check it out and claim the appropriate role, and it's a good source of information. We'll ask occasionally for patience. Sometimes it can take a minute to get to questions that pop up, but I think we do have a very good crew of moderators, and the core team is active in those channels as well, helping people out and trying to get their questions answered. So what else in October? Aptos. Very exciting new layer 1 blockchain launched to mainnet earlier this month. And yeah, we've just, we're not live on mainnet with the integration with Aptos yet. But we are seeing a lot of adoption early stage from some of the applications building in the Aptos ecosystem. I think we've announced 4 or 5 at least, just in the space of October. And so, yeah, excited to see the kind of the cross-chain, the cross-chain kind of idea already planted in the minds of people who are building on Aptos, and people are looking for solutions like Axelar. We're having some great conversations in that ecosystem.
Definitely. And another one people may have missed is Axelar actually is one of the winners of the Stellar Development Foundation's Bridge Bounty program. So over the course of October, we built out some kind of proof of concept tech and ended up being one of 5 winners of $1 million in XLM, that is Stellar's cryptocurrency. And we, alongside Multichain, Allbridge, Cubist, and Kaladin, won this bridge bounty, all for the purpose of bringing greater liquidity and bringing greater cross-chain connectivity to the overall Stellar ecosystem. So this is not live yet, but you can expect at some point in 2023 for Axelar and Stellar to kind of go to mainnet and enable greater cross-chain connectivity between Stellar and all the other ecosystems that Axelar connects today.
Definitely an exciting initiative, and glad to see another just another layer 1 who's thinking in this cross-chain way, and not just thinking in terms of, okay, how can we bridge like to Ethereum or whatever, but how can we how can we develop solutions that will create broader interoperability, and of course at Axelar that's what we're about as well. What else? Composable USDC. If you were here last month in the community call, we talked about that. Circle is a great partner. We've been working with them on adding general message passing to the native USDC capability that they have just announced. Just in brief, this means that when you take USDC cross-chain off of Ethereum, you don't necessarily have to use a wrapped version of the USDC. Of the USDC token, of the stable coin. You can use a native version of it. The bridging is handled by Circle, and that gives you then this kind of you don't have this user experience where there are various different wrapped versions of the token, and different exchanges, different dexes may list different wrapped versions. Liquidity is kind of more fragmented. All of these problems are being addressed in that way. What Axelar brings in is the ability to add general message passing to those transactions. So you're bridging USDC from one supported chain to another. That comes alongside instructions, function calls, the ability to do that in a way where you can actually execute a swap in a kind of a one-click transaction for the user, rather than having a kind of a, bridge swap, kind of separated type of experience. Swap, bridge, swap kind of flow. You have a one-click flow where some of the logic of the swap can be handled. USDC, in an example actually that we have now, I think live on our docs, is used as an intermediary asset between AVAX and I believe it's Ethereum. I believe it's ETH in the example. and just the ability to kind of do that in a way that it happens very seamlessly is the kind of goal of that. And of course, that's really only the beginning. You can think of a lot of different other ways you can integrate USDC into an application, and do that in a much more kind of sophisticated and seamless way for the user, where a lot of the the back and forth between chains is happening behind the scenes.
Yep.
So big month. I don't know, October, big month. Bunch of great AMAs and other content too, by the way. If you go to our YouTube channel, which you're probably already on, if you're not watching this on Twitter, you can find URL here into the chat. You can find a list of tutorials and AMAs or playlists there. Some are more high level, some are very developer oriented live coding sessions. And you can find there, introductions to all these different things we've been talking about. And of course, that's the place to be to subscribe for upcoming AMAs and sessions if you want to come in, bring your questions and that kind of thing.
We should also mention that there is but 1 week left to apply to the Longhash/Axelar Accelerator program.
Short time, long hash.
What's that? What?
Nothing.
Oh. You couldn't help yourself, did you?
Sorry.
If you head over to our Twitter, scroll down a couple posts, and you will see a direct link to the program where people can still apply. So if you're working on something interesting and you want to build cross-chain, you should definitely take a look at this venture accelerator program.
Yeah, it's a cool one. And I mean, I think one of the things we've wanted to make clear is that we are running a grant program concurrently with this accelerator application process. They are two separate programs. The Axelar grant program is a continuation of the same grant program we've been running since about March of this year. And it is really designed for very early stage projects like idea stage, like cocktail napkin in a garage type of projects. The accelerator that we're running with Longhash VC is from more projects that are a little further along. I would say still we have a lot of early stage projects participating, but we are really targeting the earliest stage projects with the grant program. So two programs: grant program for very idea stage companies, accelerator for projects that are a little further along, and both can be accessed through the same application process, which you can find in the tweet that I just shared in the chat here on the video. So yeah.
Right on.
Anything else, man?
I think we covered it.
We covered it all. Glad to see a lot of people joining in this time. And, of course, this will be available on the YouTube channel if you want to go back and check it out for anybody or share it around. So thanks, everybody, for coming. See you again in this space in a month and probably before then as we continue to do these kind of live AMAs and discussions with the community.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.